If you're talking about it, I'll be talking about it. Dennis Prager here. Join me this morning at 11, right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Bruce Wolf and Shaun Thompson in for Dan and Amy. You know, Shaun, I live only 5 minutes from the Wisconsin border, so it would be so easy for me to just move out of state.
It's really perplexing as to why you don't. And, you know, after the show...
I mean, you did that whole commercial for Florida before.
Well, after the show, right. The next day I'm on a plane, I'm out of here. And because by the time the election rolls around, I'm voting in Florida.
All right. But, you know, there is hope because,
no, there isn't.
Well, both Pritzker and Rauner do want to pass full-year budgets. Of course, we have no money to pay for anything, and we're still going to wind up
taxes.
We're still going to wind up kicking the can down the road. Let's be joined right now by Adam Schuster, who is the Budget and Tax Research Director for the Illinois Policy Institute. Thanks for coming on the show. Good morning.
Well, thanks for having me on. Good morning.
So here's the problem. Yeah, they both want a full-year budget, but and I like. Was this your line here that essentially it was from the Illinois Policy Institute? Lawmakers in 2014 made promises they knew they couldn't keep. This would be equivalent to a homeowner taking on a mortgage for a new home knowing that his employer is about to cut his salary to the point where he can't afford it because they passed the full-year budget but had only the temporary income tax at the time from the 2011.
That's right, yeah. So that was an article I wrote for the Illinois Policy Institute trying to predict the unpredictable, meaning what are politicians going to do? And we don't know with any sort of certainty what they're going to do. Like you said, history, if it serves as any guide, does not bode well for taxpayers. They tend to kick the can on the tough decisions. And when they do make decisions, that decision usually boils down to how much more can we take out of taxpayers' pockets. But there is a little bit of room for optimism. We have a common sense solution we're pushing, which would be a constitutional spending cap amendment.
Okay. Well, I think Jeannie Ives lost the primary. There is no hope. It's time to move. But I have another question.
Wait. Aren't we going to let Mr. Schuster explain this constitutional spending cap?
No, I have a question I've been wanting to get to for months, Adam. Months.
Sure.
Okay. Now, the ghetto casinos, known as the $3+ billion generated from the tax on the desperate and the stupid, known as video poker, where is that money? Where is it?
Well, you know, I have to get back to you on a definite answer. You know,
okay, go ahead.
I haven't looked into that specifically. You know, generally, what I'll say is everything gets thrown into the black hole that is the Illinois budget.
It's next to the lottery money. It's right next door.
Yeah, exactly. So that it's not just your tax dollars that are going into the general fund's budget anymore. They're sweeping money that's supposed to be dedicated for other purposes because they don't have enough to pay for all the promises they've made. Well, the special interest promises they've made specifically.
Shaun, I thought you were going to ask, do three of a kind beat two pair when you got into poker?
I was going to ask what kind of sneakers Nancy Kimmy wears in yoga, but I figured you had a better chance answering that.
We understand, Shaun, that you and I are both suffering from despair, and because Jeannie Ives lost. But Mr. Schuster here actually thinks that there is some cause for optimism, so I'm going to grasp onto that for a second. I mean, when I hear about constitutional spending caps, I know it's unconstitutional to diminish the value of anybody's pension, so we're going to have to rework the Constitution in order to really solve our problems. But how are we going to get this constitutional spending cap?
I think the point you made is a good one. We have to ask, the Constitution sets the stage for the rest of the laws we make, and where does it point to our priorities, right? So there's already a constitutional protection for pension benefits, but there's no constitutional protection for your average taxpayer. And so a spending cap would do that. A spending cap would, what it would do is it would cap the growth in government spending to a 10-year average of the growth in the economy. So what that really means is it ties lawmakers' ability to spend your money to your ability to pay the bill. And, the Illinois Policy Institute works with all sides. Whoever's willing to advocate for taxpayers, we're willing to work with them. And the bill, the amendment, is currently getting some bipartisan support in the Senate from both Democrats and Republicans who seem to be taking this idea seriously because they understand that taxpayers need budget certainty, and they need to know that when lawmakers go down to Springfield, the conversation is supposed to be about how to prioritize while living within your means, not about how much money do we have or how much more can we take from taxpayers.
Well, here's the problem. I mean, how can Democrats support this constitutional spending cap any more than they would support diminishing the value of pensions, and they hide behind the Constitution right now? Is that even a feasibility? I mean, eventually, this is the way it's going to fall into their laps, and they're going to have to do something because there won't be any Republicans in power at all after the November election. So they're going to have to address it. But I mean, are you really optimistic that they would go for something like this?
Well, I think I would frame it as cautious optimism. Like I said, we are getting some bipartisan support. But what I think we've seen in the past is that when taxpayers rise up and when they demand accountability from their lawmakers, we see things happen. Because while obviously the system is broken in Illinois, ultimately they are still answerable to taxpayers.
It's not broken;
so
it's
put
fixed.
Enough pressure.
Yes.
As
I always say, that's my phrase.
That's another way to put it.
I want to just ask one more question before we let you go. In your opinion, whose law firm, with the expertise of dodging property taxation through hiring, made more income? Was it Mike Madigan's or Zoot Suit Ed Burke's? Who's made more money? I'm just curious. Which law partner has more revenue?
I object to this question, and it's beyond my client's area of expertise. Right. I'm going to instruct you not to answer that question, Mr. Schuster.
Just fair enough.
Unless you want to.
I'm going to act as judge as well and say objection sustained.
Okay, so. There you go. No, but seriously, I mean, you have a whole basket of reforms that are needed, including reforming pensions and right-sizing state employee benefits. When you look into your crystal ball, it's going to fall into the Democrats' lap. What do you realistically think is going to happen after November, assuming Pritzker wins?
Well, the math's not going away, right? So eventually these decisions have to be made. And, I want to believe J.B. Pritzker when he says he does not want a 6-month stopgap budget.
Yeah, or
right?
dessert.
I mean, the thing is this financial instability is not good for anybody. And, this has been going back decades. It started, probably before this, but it definitely started with Jim Edgar kicking the can through his pension ramp reform, and what that means is the further down the road it gets, the harder it is to solve these problems. So we need to demand that lawmakers, politicians take accountability for these decisions now, and they give taxpayers serious reforms now, including things like not only a spending cap. A spending cap is a first step towards fixing this problem. But like you said, because of the growth in pensions, we need to eventually deal with that issue too.
Well, Adam Schuster at the Illinois Policy Institute, I believe I'll be able to hear you from Kenosha, where I'm probably going to be going. But thanks so much. Appreciate
thanks
the
for having
call.
me on.
And thank you for listening to, it's the only time we have a guest who has his own heckler brought in, which is Shaun Thompson.
Well,
very good.
He appreciates it because he knows I'm right. We don't stand a chance. Is there anywhere I can lay off that bet that they pass it or not? Anybody want any action?
I'm still trying to understand how to play video poker, so just give me one gambling game at a time.
They have
Bruce
instructions.
Wolf and Shaun Thompson in for Dan and Amy on AM 560, The Answer.
Connect with